All right, so yeah, welcome everyone. And this is the second meeting here, and I chose to do them on a certain theme, on a certain topic. I call it Unwinding the Wound of Love, which is a term from some tantric, the Adida, let's say, tradition. And I talked more last time. I'm not going to go into much theory. But let's say from a clinical point of view, myself also as a therapist, the wound of love in clinical terms will be attachment wounds. Attachment wounds, anything to do with trauma, pain, hurt, either a one-time event or developmental trauma, meaning like not a one-time big event, but like many little events throughout many years. Like being afraid of a parent and being cautious for many years. This forms a certain system. But usually this, or in more like layman term, abandonment or attachment disruption, very crucial for us as babies and kids to, like with the tiger, with the antelope, with the dogs, naturally the parents of these creatures, they are there, they are present, they do whatever it takes to keep them safe and protect them and teach them. And somehow, due to the low level of consciousness on the planet, this is not happening so much. It's not. Even with like good parents, that is still, one may get pretty severely wounded and have lots of serious issues, which would be my case, although my parents were like much safer and educated and kind than almost all the clients I have. So, and still had some serious issues that played out in my relationships. So yeah, we are meant to be felt with this constant attention and love and care. And if this doesn't happen, this creates serious issues that play out later in relationship. So yeah, my plan is to this meeting to actually not just go into technical 3D processing, although we may do some of that, but also talk a little bit, Also, as I mean, for you guys to talk, not just me. Yeah, I had a thought, but I lost it. Oh yeah, so to talk a little bit, to share some of our patterns or some of these things that we developed out of this hurts, wounds, or neglect or abandonment, helps to share. And I appreciate that Scott now is more open to being open to our stories somehow, and the tribal healing element of being witnessed by loving, accepting people like ourselves. So sharing the story somehow helps to also realize we are not. One thing people tell me when I do a lot of groups is that, oh, wow, because if you do just one-on-one, one may think that, oh, I am terminally unique and I'm particularly messed up, and then people are okay, but I'm messed up. And hearing each other's, we see that, oh, wow, all these people have kind of similar stuff, so it's some kind of normalization. So also, although I narrowed the subject to this attachment, wounds, relational patterns, and all of that, I'm totally open to troubleshooting any just technical 3D, third dimension technology into here if you are stuck in some way, or you want to bounce some ideas here, although they are not necessarily related to attachment wounds, that's fine too. So yeah, before I open it to you guys to share, I want to disclose something, because for me, the last 2-3 months, they have been extremely intense and focused out of necessity of doing this 3D work. And there was a video that Scott put quite a few months ago saying that using current triggers, which would be in the second dimension, to follow the thread and go down into where these triggers or these patterns originated from the third dimension. So yeah. So for myself, basically, my most painful and deepest wounds or hurts that I had, I don't remember them. I have no memory in terms of conscious memory, like seeing images and stuff or remembering things. There's no memory of the deepest, most painful stuff. And as I got older, still there were some very painful stuff where I have memory, but I didn't feel anything at that time. So, and in my case, yeah, when I was 1 month old, my mother, out of love, let's say, no, out of love, and also some of her deficiency story that she cannot do it, that she cannot do it. That's her deficiency story. I can't do it. I not good enough. She thought that it would be best for me if she sends me to her mother, to my grandma. When I was 1 month old, after 9 months in the womb, and after I don't know how much time on the other side, come here, and then the baby is supposed to be on the chest of the mother and to be in constant contact for a long time and to have eye contact and to have breast milk and all of that. So I didn't have that. And although when I went to my grandmother, I experienced 6 years of perfect safety and perfect love, perfect attention on me, no arguments, no put downs, no criticism. I was their little butterfly. So that was good, and that helped a lot. And somehow my deficiency stories are not so dark, because I had this container of feeling safe and feeling loved. Yeah. However, that ruptured from the mother, not bonding with her, that and also for the baby, although I have no conscious memories, and some of you guys, some of us had to be put in that little box in the maternity. I forgot how we call it, but so this experience is like that for the nervous system of the child. This is like death. It's like dying. It's like extreme PTSD and stuff. And although we don't remember it, the body remembers it. And all right, when I was 6.5 or so, my mother and my parents, they thought, well, that would be great if we have him back now, because now we are ready for him. So I was taken now from my grandma, who from one angle was my true heart mother. And again, like this, from the mother, from the grandmother. So once again, ruptured attachment. And I'm switched from loving, safe, relaxed environment to an environment with a lot of stress and with these people who I knew they're my parents, but I didn't bond with them. I didn't like how they smell. I didn't feel comfortable. I was afraid. I was so also no memory of this transition. Absolute no conscious memory of like, oh, don't go, don't leave me, don't take me there. Nothing like that. Now fast forward age 14, by that time, I have already adjusted to all of these losses. And also I have, through osmosis or mirroring neurons or whatever, I have been, I've become to some degree my father, raised he was in communism, very hard, very dangerous. He had to be strong, he had not to feel, not show, don't express. So by that time, I can see that by, I think, 12, 13 was already sadness repression, loss repression, fear repression, anger repression, everything there. So age 12 or 13, my grandmother dies and my grandpa die. I have memory of being at the funeral, feeling nothing. Remember my mother crying there, I feel nothing already. So only like in my maybe mid-30s, I'm now 46, only mid-30s, as I engaged in intentional psychedelic work as a client myself, this in those journeys, they will come these like terrible states of discomfort, of terror, of terrible yuckiness that was coming up. So these psychedelic journeys, they will somehow temporarily undoing the repression barrier, bringing the trauma up, and somehow I didn't have technology to allow it. I mean, to allow it to, so I would kind of resist it. I would try to do something with it. Anyway, so I remember that looking back, those yucky, terrible states, they were actually the memory, you know, as they say, trauma doesn't come as a conscious memory, but comes as a reaction, as a strong sensation in the body. So, yeah, so this happened. So the baby lost the stability of the mother twice, goes through this intense loss, and then fast forward. All right, my point here is that when Scott says that, and probably you guys have verified to a large degree, whatever triggers we have or relational patterns, you know, like I don't get close, avoid commitment, or do whatever you can to not lose the other person, compromise yourself to not lose the other person, or any kind of relational patterns. Yeah, so relational patterns, triggers, these are in the second dimension, but these are the flowers that are coming from a deeper root. The deeper root was this abandonment trauma. Yeah. So what I want to talk about is that to trace the pattern, the unfulfilling pattern that prevents us from a good, loving relationship, or the pattern that attracts people that are not good for us. So these patterns are actually coming from the unresolved stuff, which are at the deeper level. And in order to actually solve the patterns from a second dimension that affect my life and my relationships, I actually need to go to one level below to meet those energy and discharge those energies. And then this will carry on to the upper level where are my relationship patterns. Yeah. And I have not done that. I started doing that only with KI, basically. And so I became like a classic avoidant, very strong avoidance. For a long time, my patterns were that, seeking love and closeness, seeking affection, seeking the mother. Basically, I was seeking the mother, seeking what I didn't have, seeking it through women. And at the same time, at some very deep level, not trusting that, not trusting the closeness, not trusting, I wasn't thinking like this, but that some certainty that, well, don't get close because it will go away anyway. And what will happen that from my 20s, I'll go relationship and which were good, I would attract good, loving, nice women, which is interesting because my grandma was like that. However, out of a sudden, I would be like, oh, I think that I'm done. I'm done. I don't feel anything. I'm bored. I'm not attracted. I think I'm done. So I'll just leave the relationship. And if somebody asks me why, it would be very hard to come with any explanation. This went on for a long time. Also, for a long time, when I would leave the relationship, I wouldn't feel much. So that was nice. So you break up and all of that, and I don't feel much in terms of nice, in terms of not suffering. As I started to do, consciousness work, various modalities, various this or that, I started to be more in touch with my feelings and all of that. And I started to feel a little bit. I started to feel tensions in my body at breakup, or I would feel something. But now I will use witnessing and various consciousness practices in order to get rid of that discomfort and to come back to presence. And so there was serious repression using spiritual methods. Okay, so then I've done a lot of other work, intimacy workshops and men's work and this or that helped me to somehow develop the so-called secure attachment skills. Secure attachment skills, which would be comfortable to talk about feelings, relatively comfortable to share some vulnerability. So at some level, it seemed like I'm more healed. And then, from the outside, people may seem at the beginning that I have like secure attachment, but the same pattern happened over and over. Like, I want you, I need you, I want to have sex with you, but I don't let you in, And that played out, and it was torturous forever. And then I go to, now fast forward maybe 6-7 years, I go to good non-dual teachers, good non-dual teachers, contemporary teachers, Rupert, Francis, other people, Paul Hederman, many. And then I would, and somehow I got this, okay, I get this about that I am the presence, and then yes, my mind is quieter, and yes, I'm doing well, but the pattern will continue no matter what. So then at some point I, start to bring it to my teachers, like, yeah, I get this with awareness, but I have this thing that keeps happening, and this or that. Francis tells me some good advice, very good stuff, like, hey, watch out for this, to not seek fulfillment for the other person. Source of fulfillment is within you. Okay, yeah. Let go trying to find a harmonious relationship, find harmony within. I'm like, yeah, that's inspiring. Yeah. Don't objectify the woman. Don't see her as the body. See her as the presence. See her as your sister. Like, yeah, I like that. I love that. That feels good. So I'm doing all of these things. the pattern keeps happening. Mysterious breakups, and also this thing like breaking up, wanting to be free and wanting to be, oh yeah, I'm sure that it's not a good match, and I feel stuck. Yeah, I feel stuck. I'm bored. I don't have attraction. I leave within 2 weeks, like devastated, suffering like a dog. The identity switches from the man who is confident and wants to be free to like a distressed child that's seeking refuge in the woman. I go back to the woman. I convince the poor woman that, you know, I really love you and all of that, and it's wonderful, and I've been so stupid. And she takes me back. Within an hour to 2 weeks, I feel the same. So this flip-flopping, terrible. I keep going back to other relationship, other non-dual teachers, and I tell her, listen, I get it. I am, you know, I get it with this presence and non-duality, but I have this thing. Now she tells me, sweetheart, there is nothing wrong with you. You are aware divine being. You are like this. Why do you keep going with what you are not? Now I have this deep abandonment, this trauma. I have these things. They tell me, hey, you have a choice. You can go along with those things and suffer, or you can go back to what you really are, the aware open space. Okay, all right, great. I keep doing that. Gives me some temporary relief, further the suppression, yeah? So at some point I was like, I even told, I don't think I told her because I was trying to avoid conflict and to be a good boy. But in my mind, I was like, yeah, I know I'm aware divine being, but fuck you. This is not helping me, man. This is not helping me. And so I kind of started to realize that that is not helping me. So I found Scott. So fast forward to the present, basically, again, the same pattern happened. Again, this separation, and I'm suffering like a dog. I don't know if this is in English, but it's a Romanian. I don't know why they say suffering like a dog. I guess in Romania, there were a lot of stray dogs. And so they had a bad life, you know. So what happened is that, and now I took 2 months to go on this pilgrimage to really get to the bottom of it. So I'm in this towards the tail end of this pilgrimage, 80% in. And so I have been for a few months, every day, twice a day, 3 times a day, I will have this. My stuff was not repressed anymore, but there was suppression, you know, somehow. So I will use a vulnerability inquiry, rapid fire trauma commands. I will do all this to go into the sadness, the loss. And what happened is that, you know, although before I could, you know, cry a little bit, I could be sad, I'm sad. Actually, I thought that this is my strong suit, you know, I can feel sadness and all of that. But what happened is that being so focused on this 3D, somehow I went beyond the grief and loss of the current partner loss, and it plunged me, I opened to this reservoir or all of this pain of the child. And from just having tears and all of that, I started to have wailing, like wailing, like Greek tragedy, like a baby, like a child, and initially it was scary. It was scary, and I would be like, whoa, I need to be witnessed. So actually, I will use Serena, although she wasn't there. I would just record WhatsApp, message me wailing, and I'll send it to her, and that felt good. Somebody will witness me later. So anyway, doing all of this, I realized very soon it has nothing to do with my partner that I lost. And I started going to all this grandma and mother, and I will go into, I'm not sad, I'm sad, I'm sad, I'm sad, I want to feel this. Sooner or later, I will be willing to feel this. And then it will go into my trauma command with abandonment is don't go, don't leave me, don't go, don't leave me. I need you, which will flop into I don't need you, get away from me, leave me alone, I don't need you, fuck you, I need you, mommy, mommy. So somehow I realized that I was like, wow, I'm saying don't leave me, don't go, but I am constantly leaving these women. Nobody left me. I left all of them. Yeah. So I realized that's another thing. What I noticed that through doing 3D work is not just the emotion. Yeah, we are processing the emotion, we are processing the energy, but out of that, there will come wise insight. Yeah. So it's not just discharging the energy, there comes clarity. So at some point, I realized after doing a lot of 3D work, I realized, oh my God, I am recreating abandonment for myself over and over. And I create suffering for myself and for these wonderful women. And I'm having them experience this, and I'm living them. And because I got more conscious and more sensitive, now I am feeling it. I am feeling it, all of this, over and over and over. And for the first time, I felt the possibility that I don't have to do this anymore. I don't have to. As Buddha said, there's suffering. Life will bring suffering. Now people will die. My dog will die. Somebody will die. There will be stressors. Yeah, there's suffering, but the deepest suffering for me, I was doing it to myself. So anyway, I'm feeling very hopeful somehow. I feel I discharged a lot of those trauma, abandonment stuff, and it brought a lot of also clarity, in like real clarity, not philosophical insights. I could see that my last partner, I could see that she was love itself. She was love trying to love me. And I rejected her, and I rejected everybody while seeking them. So somehow, very grateful about this work and hopeful that and I'm going to test this theory. That's what Scott says. Hey, discharge the poisonous gases, the pain body in the third dimension, and you will see the deficiency story or the pattern discharge. Yeah. So I guess I will test it when I go back. Yeah. So anyway, it's a long story here. I was trying to illustrate with you guys somehow how basically I didn't want to feel lost anymore. Didn't want to feel lost, didn't want to feel that energy. So then I guarded my heart, and then I wouldn't trust love, and I wouldn't trust my love, I wouldn't trust her love, and I would reject what is so natural. And yeah. So on this note, if you guys want to share anything to do with some of the relational patterns that you discovered in your relationships, or also if any of you had some similar insights to see where they are coming from and how have you been working with it. Yeah, so we can throw here into the mix some of your patterns or issues around that, or if you have any questions. Also, at some point, I found another teacher, a tantric teacher, that was very wise. And her idea of enlightenment was not of transcending somewhere, some empty, blissful place, but the idea of enlightenment was to feel everything. And then when people come to her, they will say, yeah, I understood this and I saw God and there's no self and whatever. She would be like, yeah, nice. How is your relationship? How is it going with your wife? How is it going? So I feel that these relationships, I mean, could be with friends, doesn't have to be intimate. These are the where the spiritual rubber meets the road. You know, there is the illustration, you know, and I feel like that, yeah, illustration of true embodied presence is that the relationship, we attract people that are good for us and we grow together, and it's safe to feel, it's safe to share, it's safe to be oneself. And one can, I guess the missing experience for me is to rest in the togetherness, you know, to rest in the togetherness. So how are your guys' relationships? Yeah.
I can share. I'm almost twice as old as you now. So I've lived a long time. And I had a similar thing in my childhood, although I was not transferred to a different person. But at the time I was born, my mother had this idea from something she'd read, I'm sure, that you should let the baby cry and wait for like 4 hours till you pick them up again. And I haven't done a whole lot of the third dimension work yet, but what I have done has brought me to, to see some really similar stories to what you tell. And thank you for sharing your beautiful story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she wouldn't pick me up. So my longing, I mean, just in this last week when I was being facilitated or going through my own self-inquiry, it was like, I want my mommy.
Yeah.
And I want to be held. And no wonder I love hugging everybody. I even hugged the checkout person in the grocery store the other day. I just need to be touched and held. And I don't have a romantic partner. My husband left twice, divorced me twice after giving me 4 beautiful children. And so I was a single mom and terrified about life most of my adult life. But also my parents were stable and kind. They just weren't very close. It was kind of like the children were over here playing and the adults were doing their adult thing. And we just weren't touched very much.
Yeah.
So that's, been my longing, and it's taken me through abandonment. And I've seen how I've abandoned myself. Yeah, it all comes back inside. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah. And yeah. And I don't know. I feel very lucky at this point. I've just moved back to the West Coast from Hawaii, so I could be more in these classes and also get the medical support that I need for my vocal cord thing. I can't speak, and I feel like this disability also comes from just all the loss in my life and having my voice repressed. So now I started studying this week with Chloe Goodchild, who's all about unleashing the natural voice. And it's so beautiful. Yeah, the medical care I can get through our medical establishment isn't good. And I realize it's just a huge emotional component to it. But yeah, years and years of meditation and living at a yoga retreat facility with a wonderful yoga master, Baba Haridas. I learned to go into silence and be at peace. And then I'd get up off the mat and my relationships were all screwed up. So I totally agree about that. Look at your relationships,
Mhm.
what's happening there? Yeah. Yeah. I want my
Yeah.
mommy. And
Yeah.
the wailing. Yeah, my ex-husband finally died, and I had wanted him to apologize to me. He was very abusive, and he abused the kids, and I allowed it because I didn't know any better. I kept trying to keep him in the family and make him happy, and I
Mhm.
totally lost myself in the relationship. So
Mm.
I didn't have any relationships for almost 50 years.
Wow.
And then I had one more with an older man, and I was, we were very close for 5 years. We didn't live together, but I was with him when he died.
Mm.
And and he was very kind. That's really what I wanted at that point. He was
Mm.
really kind to me. So lots of healing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was a trend in the, just some thoughts back at you. There's a trend, I don't know, in the 70s, I don't know when, probably, I don't know, but there was a trend that in order to develop strong, confident kids, you have to let them cry themselves to sleep so they become independent. But actually, it's the opposite. The needs for 3-4 years that the child to be there all the time, and only then they will naturally become independent because they feel the base. And yeah, out of it's interesting. Out of leaving these women, I developed this deficiency story that I create suffering for women. I am bad, and that. Yeah, only later I realized recently, like that this program, I deserve to suffer. I don't need to suffer. It's okay to be free of suffering. I don't need to suffer. And I'll be like, no, you need to suffer. You need to suffer. You're being bad. You need to suffer. But I'm curious, like for you, Sumitra, did you discover from the experience of being left to cry like this and being alone, what will be some core program that might have developed in the second dimension around life, around people, around love? So what kind of program or deficiency story might have been formed? What did it mean about you, basically?
Yeah,
That we
I
took it.
don't matter. I don't even exist. But
Mm.
I don't matter, I think, is a big one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. My father was self-deprecating, very kind and loving to other people, but to himself, he was not.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a religious belief for him. But somehow I followed it after that and learned to put myself down.
Mm.
And, I was not important. It was important to make everybody else happy. So the people pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken a long time to work through that. And now I'm beginning to see my mother, who was very self-confident. And
Mm.
it's beautiful. I haven't even thought of her for years. I've been dealing with my dad for so long. And yeah, now I'm starting to see, they're really positive qualities.
Also what you said, that I don't know where I learned this, but it seems to be true. As we do inner work, the wound becomes a gift. The wound becomes the gift in a way that you were not touched. There was no affection. And now you are giving to the whole world what you didn't have,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the wailing is a wonderful thing. That came to me when my ex-husband died and he hadn't apologized for all his abuse. I would get in my car and drive and just wail. It's such a primal expression. I
Yeah.
can feel it in my voice now. I think I need to do more of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I will go to you, Karen, but I'm here with my my best friend from childhood who actually was raised in a village somewhere in the Soviet Union. And he was telling me this thing that struck me, that in the village where he was raised, when somebody would die, they would put the that body in some cold room for 3 days, and then there will be this, I don't know how to call it, a wake or something, but there will be constantly people there, but also they will hire these specialized women who were there crying and wailing for 3 days. So, you know, so they will be paid in order to cry, and they will be like, he died, and like this. And I was like, no. And I remember that also in other culture, tribal cultures, ancient culture, and more recent. I mean, this is like 1980 it was happening, and I was like, wow, this is amazing that they were trying not to suppress somehow through the triangle of these professional wailers. It helped to move energy, you know. Nowadays you don't see elderly on the street at all, just young sexy people, and then you are taken somewhere in a group home, I mean in a retirement home, and then there's no death, there's no bodies, there's no nothing, you know, death, fear of death, all totally repressed. Karen?
Yeah, thank you. Maybe my thoughts aren't all organized, but I have two comments or questions. I think also maybe more recently to Sumatra's comments, what is coming to me right now is I'm new into this work. Have been working with Serena for several months, raising children, and in doing that, recognizing, you know, all the ways that I've traumatized them through actually just having my own, and slowly waking up to it. Even the, you know, having them, giving birth to them and sending them off with the nurses, you know, I'm like recognizing, or my husband saying, now it's been a week, get the kid out of the bedroom, you know, put them in their own room. I'm recognizing all of these things that I was fed to believe as a woman, even though my instincts were different. I suppressed my instincts as a mother because I was listening to everybody else's advice. And that's the pattern too. Following all that back is to my childhood, is suppressing that true voice and turning, and in my religion also turning away from instinctual and self to look for approval and acceptance of others. And without getting into my story, I guess I'd bring that also. So that's one question, is how do we come now to these children that we're raising while still working on our own shit? How can I be honest with them and start to hold them in their traumas that I've been a part of, obviously, and then the world is creating that for them as well. But then also having my own relationship with their father. I'm recognizing, see if I can say this. As I start to have my voice and as I start to share, there's something that happens in him that triggers his deficiency story. Right? Like the more open and vulnerable and that I get, something happens in him where his reaction he shuts down. And so it's like, and then I shut down because his shutdown shuts me down. And it's this constant like, and then we separate for a while, then we can't stand it. We have an explosion and then we're both vulnerable and emotional again, and we can come. And it's like this, that's the pattern I'm noticing. I wonder
the relational pattern is that
as I feel like I open up and lean in and share, something happens and triggers him, something from deep within him. He gets cold, pulls away, although he doesn't know it, right? He's not doing this work and doesn't want to hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that triggers my contraction, my fear, my real fear, because that's what was happening with my parents. As I leaned in or I trusted them in my vulnerability, I think that there was this wall in them, this don't feel anything. So when I see he doesn't want to feel, I get triggered and then I pull away and shut down. I get scared, angry, whatever, and I don't speak because I'm too much, right? That's my,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're both locked up, right?
What?
And we're both locked up. We're both
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
contracted hearts. And
so
then
in relation to this relational patterns, when this happens, I guess if you boom around that, it comes up for you, I'm too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how old are your kids now?
15 and 12.
Okay. Well, I'm not a parent, but I work with many people and this or that. Yeah, and actually there's someone here that maybe she wants to talk about it, Nicole, later. And we may have these thoughts, well, I messed them up. It's my fault now. And they are going to be tortured all their life and it's too late now. They already have their repression and program and all of that. But actually it's not too late, So basically what seems to be healing, just you doing this work without talking to anybody about this, apologizing to nobody, just you doing this work, this is going to impact the family system. It's definitely going to impact your kids in a good way. It's going to impact your husband in a bad way. As this grows, either something good will happen with him or it's not going to work. But let's say staying with the kids, even now, actually what I learned from Francis was telling me, Francis Lucille, that he was enlightened master and whatever. But he will go to his kids. They were like, now, like 10 years ago, it'd be like, hey, I'm sorry. I made mistakes there. I'm really sorry. I didn't know better. I'm really sad that I wasn't there for you and this or that. So this, authenticity, vulnerability, heartfelt apology, and now you becoming more the real, authentic, conscious version of yourself. This also is transmitted. It's like a transmission of that, just like you had the other previous transmission of trauma and pain body. Yeah, I think there are several people here that I talked to them in this meeting that they noticed that, oh, I didn't say anything to them, but now my kid or my wife is starts to be more vulnerable, starts to be more real, something is happening, and they are very surprised. So, yeah. Also, it's important to let go. To really be careful, let go trying to change him, because this is the detrimental effect. And even I used to do this with my mom, do inquiries like, or bring your husband or my mom. It's totally okay how he is. I don't need to change him. He doesn't need to change. And of course, meet no, I hate it. I don't like her. I don't know. I'm sad. So somehow allowing all the opposition and processing that somehow, so that there's not this subtle energy of wanting to change him in some way, you know?
So as I stay vulnerable and try and stay and speak in my authentic self, and that trigger happens where there's that kind of that non-emotional shutdown for him, and that triggers me, is just to keep that heart open and keep leaning in and keep my vulnerability. Recognize that his shutdown is my trigger.
Yeah, and let him, shut down is uncomfortable, so I'm not necessarily go with more vulnerability at him, but like you can, go to your inner closet and bring it up, and just, boomerang. Okay, he shut down. What does it mean about me? Oh, I'm too much. And then kind of, I'm not too much. I'm totally okay as I am. No, I'm too much, and all of this. And somehow do your own work, so you clean your side of the street, so you are free yourself from that I'm too much, and yeah. Also, it may be helpful to, without trying to proselytize in any way or trying to convince him of the work in any way. I mean, I don't know your situation, so you need to think for yourself in your current situation. It may be helpful to say, when it's calm, not when it's triggered, when it's calm, to say, I just want to let you know that I'm doing this type of, I don't know, psychotherapy, whatever you want to call it. And so I am, I notice changes in me, and I am showing up as more authentic and real. And, and I understand that this is a little hard for you and intense, but I just want you to know I love you, or if you do love him, and somehow, so you can do some psychoeducation to him without any request nor anything, baby steps. See how he responds. I mean, he may say, oh, I don't like that. I wish you were how you were 10 years ago. I don't like that. I want my old wife back. Well, that's some information for you. You may have to make some decisions later, but staying in the game is good, and things can change.
Thank you.
Yeah. Nicole, you want to share something about that you noticed with your kids?
Well, just to help you be able to relax a little around it, Karen. I have two sons, and one is very avoidant and the other is very anxious. And they grew up with the same environment, and they have abandonment stuff, and now they're 24 and 25, and I'm watching them struggle, and one of them struggles with some suicidal ideation. And it's I guess the first thing I want to say is that as a parent, it's such an important role to be a parent, like the most important job ever. And I think no matter what, because of the human condition, we're wired for struggle. Like even Mihai's story, I think, is so cathartic, because he self-admittedly, he has clients that had parents that were asleep, and his parents were present and there and intelligent, and he still has all of this the protective mechanism that got put in place at a really young age to stay safe in the repression. So, but it's hard as a parent, to not feel like everything's your fault. And so every time my kids struggle, I'm like, oh shit, what can I do to help them? I like go into this mode where I want to rescue them, which can be very disempowering for them. So I have to be careful not to rescue them and just be there and be like a friend, right? Because my kids are older, they're 24 and 25. But ultimately, if I really deconstruct that, what I'm worried about is losing relationship or losing connection with them. And that comes from mom and dad stuff. And so there's lots of content there with KI for me to work on. In my relationship with my kids, it's still going back to my mom and my dad. But ultimately, like, the human condition is that we're here to connect. So maybe it's even some, maybe it's not about mom and dad. Maybe it's just this archetypal thing that we're humans and we're pack animals and we're meant to connect. And so there's that fear of loss. What was it specifically, Mihai, that you wanted me to speak to?
Well, yeah, before we go into that, it's really important to, just like I had to look at this, that I'm bad, I create suffering for women, therefore I deserve to suffer. I noticed with clients of mine, like I'm a bad mother. I am like this, it's my fault. So it's important to kind of discharge that. Also, the trap is to, I can tell you intellectually, like, hey, Nicole, realize that it is not your fault. Realize that there was a transmission of trauma, and then you did the best you could with what you had. And this trauma is not personal. And that's how it works here. So just don't beat yourself up, Nicole, and forgive yourself, because you did the best you can. So although that statement is true, that is not helpful. So it's good to go into, I was an awesome mother, I've done nothing wrong. And then see what comes up, and kind of meet the guilt, the shame, the sadness, and this or that bunch of times, many times, until you experientially understand what you already know. Hey, I did the best I could. It's not personal, But what touched me, you shared with me recently, Nicole, is that although you didn't push so much the agenda, but due to the fact that you are serious doing this work, your kids, who are not necessarily into seeking of any sorts, they seek your counsel. They share with you. They are vulnerable with you. They are interested in this. So you are noticing some interest in them to work on themselves, which is very awesome. Just because they see you now, you've been so, they see you and they feel something, and now they are seeking your conscious guidance, so that's cool.
Yeah, if anything, that's the biggest win, right? Is my kids come to me, and they always have, but I guess I didn't realize, if they're still coming to me in their adult life, then that, I guess, would be a win as a parent, that I made a safe place for them to come to. And I don't push my agenda as hard as it is, because I want to help myself. And then when I see them struggling, I'm like, here, have this piece of information, help yourself. But I try not to, I'm trying to just lead by example, I guess is what I'm saying. And I do see them doing something different. They're not asking to learn KI, and they're not asking specifically what I'm doing, but I do see them recognizing that they're the common denominator in their suffering, and what are they going to do about it. And so I guess that would be, I don't know how old your kids are, Karen, but yeah, just trust that if you are doing your work and you're showing up, if you're showing up vulnerably, doing your work, and they're seeing you, whether you speak about it or not, they're going to get it through osmosis. And just trust that as long as you're working on yourself and being present and being vulnerable and keeping the lines of communication open, they're gonna be okay. They're gonna find their way if you're working on yourself to wake up.
I appreciate that sharing, Nicole, a lot.
Yeah.
They're 15 and 12, and my 15-year-old daughter the other day, she was just breaking down, which she doesn't very often. So I was very excited, even though she was in pain, to be the receiver of her emotion and her vulnerability with me. But she admitted that it's so hard for her to feel like she can feel her feelings, because she thinks she has to keep it together for me because because I'm a mess or something, right? Like, she's like, Mom, I wish you just had your shit together so I could break down. And that goes back to like, oh, I can't be my authentic self. I can't show the feelings. It's not like I'm, and then when I try and repress them, it's that energetic of being kind of depressed and not showing anybody anything, and it's like, we're all, we walk around and everybody's got faces on, hiding from ourselves, hiding from each other. And I guess I wonder, is this the right thing to show them this authentic? And they see that. And I talk about these being storms moving in and out, right? Like, this is just an expression. This is coming up for me right now. I'm crying now, and it will move. But for her to say, I wish you just had your act together so I could be the one that breaks down. I don't, what do you say to that?
I would make sure she understands that it's not about her first and foremost as a parent, because if they're left to their own devices, they're going to have it, they're going to make it mean something about them.
Yeah.
Right. So I can't answer the rest of that question. That's a Mihai. That's above my pay grade.
Yeah, it's tricky. She wants you to be solid for her so she can break down. Well, you can break down with a facilitator or break down various things. And then as you break down in intentional spaces, not, where it's safe to break down, then you will naturally be more grounded, Anyone wants to share more, let's say, relational patterns or anything? Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. It touches me because I have an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old, and I recognize that they pick up everything. That's what I'm seeing. We sometimes pretend we are doing good, but they know if mother and father is not on the wavelength. They know if I'm not, if I'm like, I have a lot of anger in my past. It doesn't come out very often anymore. And that's part of what I hate myself, the times that I've exploded. I've never been physical, but actually the way they just, when I'm honest, that's what my point is. When I say I lost it, I was angry, and I like my 8-year-old, she just comes to me and say, "Yeah, I love you anyway," and so I just melt. She's like, she already saw it before I said it. I mean, and I'm talking about 3 weeks ago, and if I said something else, it was just, yeah, sure. I feel also like sharing, like when my son was, I think he was a little younger than 2 years old. So we were having a lot of stress coming out of the house in the morning. And then I saw he was kind of stone-faced, like he was never like that. He was just in a completely different mode. And then I asked him, "Are you okay?" And well, however you can ask a youngster, right? But I was trying to tune in, and he was not good at all. And then I didn't understand it. Where I was looking at my wife, we weren't fighting or anything. But then when I looked even closer to her, she was stressed. She needed to do a lot of things to come out of the door. So she was pushing herself, and then somehow it came out of me just spontaneously to ask him, are you sad that mommy's sad? But she was not showing sadness. She was showing stress. And he cried like we've never seen him cry. And I was not even sure he would understand the words. I mean, such a young boy. And we just decided not to go to work at the hour we planned. We just decided to stay with him. And he cried like, it was amazing because he knew that Mama was sad, but she knew how to hide it. So she knew how to put a mask on and just move on. And so we just stayed with him, I don't know, 20 minutes, something like that. We didn't get out of the door at the right time. And I think it just taught me that they're already feeling it. They're already sensing what's going on. And to me, that's been like my journey has been, if I'm honest with myself, of course, sometimes I need safe space to be honest with others. But if I'm honest with myself, then it's like I'm excavating the layers that are there. I just feel that I'm digging with my honesty, and they already know it. So why should I not be honest to them? And that's also part of that what I've learned, because I didn't want kids in my life when I realized that I was gonna give them all the shit I have. And then when I started my wife, she knew when we met. I said, don't expect that we might never have kids if you stay with me. But then after many years, she stayed with me, and then I kind of matured, I guess. And I said, but I'm just really struggling with the fact that I'm gonna give them, because I might take a lot of lifetime to get all of this shit out of my body. But then when I realized that maybe it's a bigger gift to give them the honesty and show them that we can change, that who I was yesterday, if I living honestly and doing my best and being heartful, maybe I'm not like that tomorrow. And so maybe that gift is bigger than being perfect. It's impossible. We all know that. So yeah. They are our masters. They see through everything.
Yeah, this if we lose our temper, or if we hurt them unwillingly or something, it's so healing to own it, to be like, hey, Jimmy, I'm sorry that it was angry, but it's nothing to do with you, and I'm really sorry. That's not how I want to be with you. Please forgive me, or something like that. This is emotional authenticity, vulnerability, owning. This will change him. So he will now own with his partner or his partner. He's going to become that quality, Yeah. Anyone else?
Well, I'd just like to share for a minute that my 4 kids are now between 50 and 60. And the first one was born when I was 20. And really, of course, didn't know myself at all. And so I ended up giving up myself totally, trying to make my husband happy. But I just want to say it's never too late. I've spent the last 2 years in Kauai with my 2 oldest sons. And just with the attitude of, come to me now. I want to hear it all now. And it was hard. It was very explosive for a while, but things gradually settled, and we learned to talk to each other. And they expressed some horrible things to me. And I started finding my own boundaries, just by going through that process with them. I had felt so much guilt and shame over the years from what happened in their childhood that I didn't know my own boundaries. I had to tell my oldest son one day, I was driving him somewhere. I stopped the car. We were 2 miles from where he was staying. I said, "Get out," because he was totally disrespectful to me. And he ended up telling me, "Thank you," that I was finally clear with him. Because all the fawning and all that stuff is so confusing. But just being open with them and, like you're saying, I'm not perfect. Let them know that you understand you're not perfect and you're sorry. Yeah. But that they're welcome to come to you anytime. And I might not accept it, if they're not respectful.
Mhm.
I'm finding my own boundaries now, and I can say no,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, I once for a few years in a place where they would send the most wounded, traumatized youth in California. That they were dangerous, basically, at risk behavior, very messed up. And many of them, almost all of them, they had a lot of trauma and a lot of really bad home environment. And few of them, they had awesome parents who had no boundaries. They would do whatever they wanted, the kids. So that also, this is more like swinging the other pendulum now these days, maybe last 20, 30 years. They are more like new agey, hippie, all of these great books of parenting, so you don't hurt them. But then we get too soft. There's no boundary. There's no saying, "Hey, dude, that's not okay. Get out." Intentional, clean anger and stuff like that. So a good parent is not that you are nice all the time, So a good parent's loving, kind, caring, but not taking shit, putting boundaries, And the same with our parents, There's something that I learned from Francis. He was giving me this advice because I had triggers with my mom. So he was giving me advice that was somehow helpful, but it wasn't getting to the third dimension, But he was saying this, like, as they say, our parents get older, the roles get reversed, and now they are becoming our child. My mother is my child now, and depending on their role level of spiritual development, they can become a toddler, And then it is my job to, no matter what kind of parent they were with me, to do the best I can to be the best parent I can with them. The caveat is, unless if they are toxic and nasty, then it's okay to cut them off and not ever talk to them. Yeah, but if they are not toxic and nasty, then this is a healing practice to be with our parent, to be the better parent to them. And a good parent is like caring, loving, but to put boundaries, put boundaries with the mother and the father and speak up and all of that. It's interesting. It went from attachment, this to parenting and all this. This is cool. This is interesting.
Yeah, I'd like to say something about that. And I'm really moved by all your shares. I grew up with a mother who had no self-respect, and couldn't connect at all. She said the words "I love you" all the time because I think she knew she could. That's all she could do. But I had so much disrespect for her because she had no respect. I think I was in my 20s once, and I was speaking to my aunt, her sister, who was my favorite aunt. She was always, very warm, and she didn't like anyone rocking her boat. Don't get angry, don't get sad, just let's be nice and stable. But she was wonderful. And I was saying something nasty about my mother, her sister, and she slapped me in the face. She said, "That's my sister." And no one hit me ever. I think my brother hit me once. But I was shocked. And I was shocked, and I had no direction to take it. Like, she was only nice to me, but she had this boundary, and it wasn't hard. It was really spur of the moment and honest. It was an honest thing she did. Could have been a mistake, but she meant it, and that was that. And I was left, and I never took it anywhere other than, I had no words for it, but what I'm telling you now, this is self-respect, this is boundaries. It was maybe not the best choice, but it got through. I didn't disrespect my aunt. So, yeah, I've learned to respect honesty, whatever it looks like, because I didn't get any growing up. It was all lying, and just misery. Both my parents were just so out there and unconscious till the day they died. I never knew who they were and never became friends. But I tell you that I haven't had a relationship in over 10 years. And I've come to have incredible sister friends, brother friends, more than I've ever had in my life, because I got all that out of the way, that need, that longing to be loved. And I got a lot to clean out. I'm pretty fresh with this work here, but I'm so glad I can be clean with my women friends. And it's very loving, and I'm glad I got to that point, at least.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, Claudia, I resonate with Nicole. Claudia was asking, just as a linguistic thing, what's self-respect? Somebody who doesn't have self-respect, I guess, in KI terms, would be they have a strong deficiency story. I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, my needs don't matter. So therefore, if I'm nothing, I'm shit, this will allow, then I will take shit from others, So that's what Mark was alluding to. We are not obviously going to have time to do experiential work, but I'm very happy with this share. But I do want to change gears here and open a little bit to any troubleshooting, working with the 3D tools. And I can share something that I noticed in myself and working with people that I recommend people. First of all, to watch out. So I'm talking now about 3D in general, yeah? To watch out for using IRF in order to get intentional rapid fire and vulnerability inquiry in order to get rid of the emotion or to get rid of the sensation. Yeah. So that's a tricky one. This will just be some sophisticated version of the same thing. You know, instead of transcending into awareness and I am not that, I am the presence which witnesses with the secret agenda so that this goes away. Now I notice this in myself. I will feel I will feel something. I'll be like, oh, what is this? I'm not sad. I'm sad. And I will kind of go into this, which was the right thing because it thaws out the tightness into actual feeling. But I could notice the fake welcoming. Basically, also Francis was talking about this. Be careful about this fake welcoming of the emotion, which would be like, you know, like Hafiz was saying, treat any visitor, any emotion, any state like a special guest in your house. Say, yeah, come, go around, whatever. So that's true welcoming. But a fake welcoming will be like opening the door with a baseball bat behind your back. Like, yeah, I want to welcome, I want to feel this. Bam! You know, so I could use, I could see that I was using some of this IRF in order to make this go away, because sometimes things won't go away. You know, sometimes some lighter stuff, doing IRF a little bit or just meeting it, they dissolve. But some of our deepest stuff, they're not going to go away like this right away. So it needs more persistent, prolonged stuff. So practically speaking, what I started to do in order to check for this is like that. I will go like, okay, bring my my partner that I lost and I'm sad, and I'm, you know, bring her up. I'm not sad. And it would be like, no, I'm sad, I'm sad, I'm sad, I'm sad, I'm sad, I'm sad. And then I check and I'm like, I'm willing to feel this now. Or I want to feel this now. Yeah, now that it's more there, I want to feel it. Now, if out of that, so I guess this would be first door. Yeah, so I'm sad, I'm angry, or whatever you have. Angry, I'm angry, I'm angry, I'm angry. It starts more here. You feel it. I'll go into the strong version will be like, I want to feel this now fully. Yeah. For some of us, that will help us to allow it more. For some of us, this inquiry is very strong and will bring like, no, fuck that. I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel it. If that is the case, if I don't want to feel it or no comes, that is not a problem. That's awesome. It's the repression mechanism revealing itself to you. I would IRF that. Like, I don't want to feel it. I don't want to feel it. Don't feel it. Don't feel it. Don't feel it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And I'll go, it's okay that I hate it. I'll be like, oh, okay, it's okay. So that helped. Then as I meet this, then sometimes I will soften I want to feel this fully, because I knew that, dude, if I had the choice, I wouldn't feel this, man. But I knew that I need to feel it. I choose to feel it, although I would rather not. So I would use a softer inquiry, you know, like I'm sad, I'm sad, I'm sad, I'm sad. I feel it here a bit more. I will go into, I'm willing to feel this. You know, this is softer, and it'll be like, yeah, I'm willing. Or I will go back to, although I don't like this, I'm willing to feel it, you know? Yeah. So that was helpful. So checking that there's not a little resistance there. And then I can go back in IRF. Sad, I'm sad, I'm sad, I'm sad. So, or I'm angry. Yeah, this is one thing that I do with myself and others. Another thing that I think I learned from Darby, she was working with me, and was this one. I will go into, okay, I'm sad, and then it's here, there's sadness, there's this, and you apply to any emotion, yeah? Right, I hate myself, or I hate you, or I'm sad, I'm angry. Yeah, so I ref it, it's more online to go into I'm sad because, and let it finish the thought, you know? I'm sad. So once it's here, yeah, it's good, but I'm sad. Why am I sad? I'm sad because she's gone. And I go into more feeling, actually, bringing the mind online. I'm sad that I didn't love her well. I'm sad that I'm alone. Yeah. Now, all of this brings other stuff that you can utilize, you can process whatever it comes, you know, and then you can go back into the actual emotion. Yeah. Just talking to someone yesterday. Yeah. So go into I hate myself, which I think that's a tricky one. I think one needs to be a little bit more resourced and established in awareness to go into that. I hate myself. But then I will say, okay, I hate myself, I hate you, and I hate myself because, and it will say certain things. And then what else, you know? And then it will unpack, and then you can go into actually second dimension. Okay, I hate myself because I create suffering for women. Oh, okay, I create suffering for women. Okay, so what do I get out of believing this? Oh, okay, so you are unpacking this. There are hidden thoughts in those emotions, yeah? Also, another thing that I started to do, which actually Scott cautioned me not to go too much into this, but I'll go a little bit into this. You know, I ref this, I will do these three-dimensional tools, so then my emotion would not be repressed anymore. Now it is here, and now it says, I'm sad, and I feel it, or I'm afraid, and I feel it, and I find out what it does. So I totally unpack it, and it is here now. It is not as a contraction, it's an actual emotion, and I know what it is about. So what I would do, just to make sure I don't try to get rid of it, I'm like, okay, can I just now feel it? Can I do nothing about it, but just be the aware openness and allowing this to take as much time as it needs, you know, once it is an actual emotion and it's flowing, yeah? Now, the tricky part is that might not be quite flowing, so then it might be good to go back into rapid fire. Yeah, so I'm usually doing the rapid fire and all of that in the first door, and then going into yeah, it went away. The thoughts are like clouds. So here we go. But if anybody has any question or something on that for just 5 minutes, technicalities.
Mihai, you were saying Scott didn't want you to go into that with us?
Yeah, I wasn't. So, like, why?
Yeah, it doesn't sound that dangerous to me, but maybe I'm not getting it.
Well, if the particular pain body that we are trying to bring up, if it's not actual flowing really, if it's not a full emotion and it's still amorphous as a half suppressed, half allowed, and then if actually I use the IRF that is working, it's now coming on online, it's online more, or 50% online, 80% offline. Now, if is not fully here and I don't know what it is, and I go now into, okay, I can just be with it, then that which brought it up stops and now it goes back down, you know? So maybe detrimental at a certain phase of the, even, you know, I'm talking about in the same session. Sometimes the right thing for me is to keep going with it, machine gun style, and at some point to just allow it and then go back into it. Yeah, he wanted me to, he was saying like, hey, be careful with this, man, because, you know, you've done a lot of this stuff, you have experience, but now there are some new people coming in second dimension and they hear you and then they're going to do it like that. So that's tricky. Yeah, he would say, hey, I hear you. Yes, be careful about this.
No, that makes sense. That I actually had a question, which maybe we don't have time, but
Go ahead.
I've actually found that because I have this thing that is now very flowing, that's been suppressed, I'm starting to hate my meditation practice because I sit in presence and this thing shuts down. And there's an inner rebellion right now against all of quote unquote non-duality and all of my path bullshit, because I'm seeing how concretely it's fed my talent for suppressing my own crap. And like, so I just sit and I do KI every day, but I don't meditate the way I have been for years, because I can't seem to rest in presence without all this stuff closing down. So maybe that's kind of what he's warning about.
Yeah, I have experienced this because I like Zen. I like this. I was like, and meditation and like promoting meditation and awareness and all that. I'm a big advocate of first dimension, guys. Big advocate. But as this KI became more like portable and more like not special occasions, but became more a part of my dynamic practice, then I would, you know, I want to, I say I'll go in because I like to sit in the morning a little bit. Yeah, I just like it, man. It's cool. I sit, and if I notice anything is unpleasant, anything like this, I'm like, okay, let's put Zazen aside. I go, this who or what is this about? I'm not sad, I'm not angry. Go into this, start in like 4 minutes, 6 minutes, like intense emotions. I go into this, then it discharges. And then I'm like, that was nice. And I go back to Zazen mode. So you can finish with that. Also, the non-duality that Scott is criticizing, that I am criticizing, or that helped bypass, is some kind of cherry-picked Western master non-duality, where they say that, hey, you know, there's the direct path, that's the ultimate, don't do anything, don't do this, don't do that. But in the tradition, they will not bring some new person and slap them with the ultimate practice. They will do a lot of other stuff for a long time, you know. So it's in the traditional non-duality will be a lot of, you know, first take care of ethics, man. Open your heart, man. Don't fuck up. Don't be nasty. And then purify your system and work on this and work on that. And then it will go, the system will be more clear, and then we'll go to this highest, you know, or this like just about the consciousness and all of that. So also, yeah, I had like you rejection of that, and a little bit like, man, that's bullshit. And then so I had some phase of poo-pooing meditation. But what I've been noticing with myself lately, as I had less of this abandonment, information, sadness, and this or that. And I've done a lot of 3D work. I'm now, okay, now we can meditate, go deeper in some way, a certain exploration. So I'm kind of falling in love with it, you know? Also, I want to recommend, guys, this guy. Actually, he was one of Scott's most important mentors that helped him. And I know that Scott talked often about him. I don't know if he talks publicly, but he talked to me about him. Greg Good, Goode, who basically has a broad, you know, when like anyway, I find him like very deeply established master who is also having a lot of, hey, you know, there is something to do. As long as there's a sense of separation, there is something to do. You need to investigate this. So combining, you know, you need to process your stuff, and while exploring the non-dual, the false sense of separation, the transparency, whatever. But then it goes into, so it's a very integrated approach, and more like a healthier version of non-duality, you know. So I really discovered him recently, Greg Good, and I really enjoyed. I could see why it was very meaningful for Scott. All right, well, I think that's good time to stop here. And I'm glad we had this more like share and all of that. I think we can next time. I'm totally want to do this experiential work, but now I think we are more on the same page. And I really recommend you guys to, for me, it was helpful to identify, you know, deficiency stories about me, like I want to, you know, I'm not good enough, or I'm unlovable, or this or that. But then some deficiency program, relational deficiency stuff. You know, I can't trust this, I can't trust love, I can't trust closeness. So to identify stuff about the relational field. And also, we don't talk so much in KI about patterns, you know, relational patterns, you know, avoiding closeness, not being authentic, not putting boundaries, this or that. So to have a very clear, for me, I find it's good to have this to be crisp somewhere on a notebook, so they're not float in my head like that. So to have an inventory, you know, like first step, you have inventory. We have a clear inventory of the deficiency identity, relational deficiency stories, relational patterns. Okay, you're going to repression and all of that. So they are like, you have, sooner or later will become like a schema, the blueprint of the wounding. And if they are somewhere there, you can always go back to and say, okay, what do I want to work with it today? And reverse that. So, you know, you don't forget, it doesn't become vague and mysterious, you know? All right. Well, thank you everyone for your realness and the emotion and hanging out with me. See you around.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mihai.
It was awesome,
Thank
Mihai.
you.
Thanks, Mihai, everybody.
Thank you.